Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, here to do a quick little unscripted thing, but not for a movie this time, although what I'm about to talk about was released in theaters. I'm going to talk about the pilot for Marvel's The Inhumans. Well, I say pilot, it's really a first episode, but technically 2 episodes morphed into one. You get the idea. It was the 2-hour premiere of The Inhumans, which is the latest part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Something that they've been building to for a while. It was originally going to be a movie, then it got knocked down to TV show. It's been a concept in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while, but now we've got a show actually focused on the Inhumans, like the actual proper characters, the royal family, the whole thing. And I also know that The Inhumans has a bit of a reputation already since it got released in IMAX theaters. People have been calling this a disaster. I mean, wow. I can't remember the last time I saw this many people definitively saying that Marvel Studios has finally messed up somehow. At least as far as the majority goes. You're always going to find someone who says, the Marvel movies suck, they need to die. You know, whatever, man, you do you. But even longtime fans of the MCU have been saying Inhumans was awful. So I didn't actually watch any of these reviews or read any of them. I know what the gist is, but I did not get deep into them for the same reasons I didn't get deep into the Shin Godzilla reviews, because I wanted to go in with a clear mind. So I knew what everyone was saying, just not the specifics of what they were saying. So is it that bad? Well, I will say this, it makes a terrible IMAX movie. I agree that releasing it in IMAX was definitely a mistake. I mean, IMAX, you know, that's a very specific kind of film type. Not that it's a genre, but it's a visual style. With IMAX, you expect great visuals. You know if you've seen something in IMAX, trust me. And Inhumans, I don't want to say it's an ugly show, but it's definitely a TV show. Like, in every sense of the word, it looks like a TV show. A standard TV show. Maybe one that's shelling out just a little bit more money than a sitcom, but still a TV show. And that would not look good on IMAX. I would not have paid full price for an IMAX ticket to see this in an IMAX theater. So, having seen it on TV, it's okay. It's not Marvel's best, I will say that. I mean, like I said, I've said this a couple times since I did the Orville, and lots of people are still rambling about that, but you know, I'm just putting that behind me. But since then, I have said it is hard for me to get a really proper judgment on just a first episode most of the time. Sometimes the first episode can either really wow me or really repulse me. And that, like, those are the extremes, and they happen rarely. Most of the time, you know, you got to give it a couple episodes. At least 5 maybe, unless it's really bad or really amazing. And that ability to see where it goes is actually part of the reason why I stuck around with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the first place. Because, you know, it didn't blow me away at first, but then it wound up being great once it tied into the Winter Soldier. So, I will say this though, Inhumans, it's obvious what they are doing. In every possible way. It is obvious what is going on behind the scenes that is dictating how this show plays out. Because, first of all, I mean, tonally, if I had to guess, this show is trying to be Game of Thrones Superhero Edition. not quite to the same level as actual Game of Thrones, because there's certain content in Game of Thrones that would never fly on ABC, not even in prime time. But it got close. It's a little more violent than your average TV show. Well, about as violent as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess. That had stuff in it that I'm amazed they got on TV. And I'm going to stop thinking about that before it makes me squeamish. And there was also a scene where you have characters in bed together, but you don't really see anything, even though it's obvious why they're in bed together. But otherwise, I mean, it's not like super mature stuff. But, you know, it feels like they're trying to be Game of Thrones. Not just in that regard, but also in terms of how it's about a royal family and conspiracies and backstabbing and taking over the kingdom and whatnot. So, obviously, like I said, not a direct parallel, you can't draw exact lines between it all, but I think that is what they're going for. Just took them longer than everyone else to get to that point of actually wanting to imitate Game of Thrones. But, you know, that means there's a lot we have yet to see. But as far as that goes, I mean, like, there was nothing in here that really shocked me the way you might see on Game of Thrones, other than the beginning implies that a character who is actually really, really important, and I know lots of people have already been speaking about it. I'll still avoid spoilers, so I won't say who this character is. But they're implying that one particular character might actually be dead. And this is a big deal because he would usually be a major player in the comics, from what I understand. I'm guessing he's not actually, but only time will tell. If he is dead, then that is sort of playing along with the idea that they're doing the Game of Thrones anyone can die idea, but we'll see. Like I said, only the first episode, and this is a major character we're talking about, so time will tell. But the other thing it's obvious that Inhumans is doing is the first episode, in addition to establishing the characters and setting the plot in motion, its other priority was taking away all the stuff that would cost money. I mean, I don't know how else to put that, because that's basically what they do. I guess I'll have to go into some spoilers for this, but like Medusa, the queen of Attilan, the city of the Inhumans on the moon. It sounds so silly when you say it out loud, but like her power is that she has hair that moves. Like her hair can wrap around you. It's prehensile hair. That's the simplest way to put it. Her hair can form extra appendages that she can use. And obviously can't really do that with puppetry without it looking kind of stupid, so it would have to be CGI. And in the first episode, Maximus, the brother of Black Bolt, the king, stages a coup, and in order to get her out of the way and make sure she can't do anything to him, he shaves her head. So there goes her power. Until it grows back, I guess. But, I mean, why else would they do that in the first episode other than so they don't have to keep animating her hair for all the other episodes, you know? So, yeah. Also, taking the major CGI influenced or prosthetic influenced characters and shoving them out of the way, making sure that they can't do that much for the rest of the season. Yeah, it's pretty clear this episode was making sure that all the cool stuff about the Inhumans that would actually require them to have a bigger budget was kept either in a place where it can't do much or removed entirely, which is unfortunate. So, yeah. But the hope is that if they're not going to be focusing on the major special effects side of things, maybe that will give them a chance to put more focus on the storyline and the characters. And story-wise, I think it's at least heading in the right direction. Because it seems to understand what makes the Inhumans interesting, and specifically what sets them apart from characters like the X-Men. Because they are kind of similar when you first hear about it. The Inhumans are people with superpowers, the mutants are people with superpowers, and you think, well, why would you need both of those? I mean, one or the other, they're basically the same thing. But the primary difference is that the Inhumans are a bunch of classists. Like the X-Men, even though you have the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants who oppose each other, ultimately they still have the goal that they are fighting for everyone. They are fighting for equality for all mutants. The Inhumans don't believe in equality because they have a very strict caste system. They have the royal family, they have the people with powers that are cool, and I mean, that's the impression I get from the show at least, that can contribute to society. And then if you have a specific kind of mutation or you don't mutate at all, you're sent to work in the mines, basically. Just arbitrarily. So, obviously, you know, they've lived that way for a while, but the villain, well, I say villain, we don't really know who the true good guys and bad guys are yet. Although it's pretty clear, I'm getting ahead of myself. Maximus, his thing is that he's the king's brother. He's inhuman, but he doesn't have any power. For some reason, the Terrigenesis didn't give him anything, at least not as far as we know. I doubt they're going to do some sort of big reveal. We'll see. But obviously, the only reason he's not in the mines is because he's the king's brother. But that doesn't mean he hasn't been discriminated against. And so when he's staging his coup, he's trying to overthrow that caste system and bring everyone up out of the mines and create true equality, or at least that's what he's claiming at the moment. So that requires overthrowing the royal family, the rest of the royal family, who, even though they reinforce this strict caste system, don't necessarily seem like bad people. So that could potentially lead to interesting places. Like, they could really have a good story in which they blur the lines of good and evil and make us really question who's right and who's wrong, even if we do ultimately at the end have a hero and a villain. So there's potential, as far as the story goes at least. As far as the characters, well, like I said, a lot of the show was about taking away the stuff that makes the Inhumans interesting, what gives them their edge. It's not just shaving Medusa's head, other stuff happens too. And the result of that is, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. It feels like it hasn't quite earned its right to get there yet, if that makes any sense. If we had had a season where we actually got to see the Inhumans at the top of their game, at their best, and then we had a second season that started like this, where the Inhumans get taken down a peg, actually kind of like what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did, that would, I think, make sense. But right now it seems like it's trying to get right into the let's bring them down to them at their worst kind of thing. And that's not a good idea, I don't think, because that also means the characters, that there's a lot of established history going on, a lot we don't know about the characters, and that could be a problem, because the only way we might learn that is if we go back. If we keep having flashbacks or characters monologuing about the way things used to be, and that could bog the series down potentially. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. Performance-wise, it's all over the map. Like, everyone is acting, but it's not a consistent thing throughout. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of the Marvel Netflix shows, the acting quality is pretty consistent throughout. With Inhumans, you have some people who are really good, some people who are average, some people who probably should have been recast. Yeah. I'd say honestly, I don't mean to pick on people, but I'd say honestly the worst of them would be the princess. I don't remember what her name is. She can manipulate temperature. She's got those weird black highlights in her hair. I don't know if it's just like first episode awkwardness, but she gave the worst performance in my opinion. I hope she gets better. And everyone else is just sort of middle of the road, I guess, for the most part. Black Bolt is the one I was actually looking forward to seeing the most because I just really like the idea of Black Bolt. Because here you have a king. He has the most powerful voice in the whole kingdom because he's the king. But he also literally has a powerful voice that can destroy you if he so much as grunts. So he says nothing, and there's so much you can do with that. But that also means the actor has to be able to convey his thoughts and his feelings and whatnot without speaking. And that's one of those jobs which I, as an actor, like, that would fascinate me. Because there are certain jobs as an actor you hear about and you think, oh, that sounds like it would be really easy. I get to play a character who doesn't speak, that means I have no lines to memorize. But then you actually have to do it and you're thinking, wait a minute, how am I supposed to convey this idea without saying a word? I can use my expressions, but how much is too much or how much is not enough? Am I like, is this too confused or is this not confused enough? Or, you know, it presents its own challenges. And I've played roles that sound like they're easy because of one thing, but then present completely different challenges. So I was interested to see how the actor would handle Black Bolt. And he does a good job. Like, there are some expressions that are maybe just a little over the top, but I guess I haven't quite made up my mind on if he's good at it or not yet. There are some things that come across as a bit hammy with all these things, especially, like, again, I bring this back to how it feels like they're rushing into the epic plot without having taken the steps to get the audience invested in the characters first. Like I said, there's the scene where Maximus shaves not Gorgon. I keep messing them up because the queen is named Medusa, but the royal guard is named Gorgon, and Medusa was a Gorgon in Greek mythology. I won't make that mistake again, or I'll try not to. But there's the scene where Maximus shaves Medusa's head to take away her power, and it's treated like this really big, really dramatic scene, the part where you're supposed to go, no, kind of like that. But because it's only the first episode, it doesn't have that impact. It's not like, say, when Captain America drops the shield in Civil War at the very end of it. That was a big moment because we had 2 Captain America movies and 2 Avengers movies to get to know Cap and understand who he is and what he stands for and why he does what he does. So that seeing him drop the shield at the end, that really was the stop and just be silent that it actually happened kind of moment. And it earned it. It took the time to let us get to know him. It was good all the way through. And then we got to that moment, and that was a jaw dropper. Here in the Inhumans, shaving Medusa's head is treated like it's meant to be a jaw-dropping scene, but we don't know Medusa. We barely know any of these characters. So we've only seen her use her hair a couple of times. If they had taken more time prior to that, like several episodes at least, maybe, like I said, a whole season beforehand, but even if they just given us a couple more episodes prior to this where they really show just how much of an extension of her moving hair is, that taking that hair away would be like cutting off one of her arms or both of her arms. That would have had more impact. Instead, I was trying not to laugh because it did come across as a bit silly, which is unfortunate. So, yeah, I haven't quite made up my mind on Inhumans yet. I know that some shows do get off to a slow start, and if they aren't so awful at the beginning that I just think, why am I wasting my time on this every time I'm done with an episode, you know, I will stick around with it and hope that it gets better. I don't know if it will, though. I'm hoping it will. Marvel has been able to consistently make stuff that is at least good. And good being like middle of the road, inoffensive, watch it or not watch it, but if it is on and you are watching it, you don't feel like you're wasting your time watching crap kind of stuff. That is as bad as Marvel has gotten so far as I've seen. So, will Inhumans prove to be their first failure, like so many people seem to be willing it into becoming? I don't know. I hope not. Because, I was very disappointed by the Orville. I can't see Star Trek Discovery. So Inhumans is basically the only new show that I've got. Well, DuckTales. DuckTales is great, but as far as live action stuff goes, Inhumans is the only other new show that I would be watching regularly. And I don't want it to be a bad show, but we'll see. It's not the unmitigated disaster that everyone else seems to be saying it is. At least I don't think so. But only time will tell if it winds up being good. And that's just about all I have to say on it at the moment, because like I said, it's only the first episode. Will I stick with it? Again, we will see. And I can only say we will see so many times before it starts to get repetitive. So I will call that it. Did you see the Inhumans premiere? Did you see it in IMAX, or did you wait for it to show up on TV? What did you think? Do you think it was good? Do you think it was bad? Are you in the wait and see tribe, as I would be? You know, as always, leave your thoughts below. Feel free to share whatever you think of it. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off.